Treasure Island, San Francisco, California. The presidential special has arrived on the West Coast and pauses at San Francisco en route to Los Angeles so that the president may inspect the exposition grounds here on Treasure Island, where on February 18th, 1939, the Golden Gate International Exposition will open. This is the fourth major address in this transcontinental tour. Previous addresses having been made by the president at Marietta, Ohio, Covington, Kentucky, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Several platform talks from the train have been given in each state through which the special passed. Mr. George Creel, well-known writer and United States Commissioner for the Golden Gate International Exposition, is now rising to preside over this Treasure Island luncheon. Mr. George Creel.
Mr. President, the whole state of California would rejoice to bid you welcome, but natural selection dictates that one man above all others be chosen. That man is not only the governor of our state, but he also happens to be one of the few remaining survivors of a great tribe that used to rule this region, and still practices, very amiably, I may say, the mysterious rites of his peculiar political sect. Governor Frank Merriam of California.
Mr. President, Mr. Creel, I thank you very much for that very kindly introduction. You undoubtedly will leave some things to be decided by the people in the future. Mr. President, California greets you. Is joyous that you are within her borders and heartily welcomes the chief executive of our great nation. Only this morning, you crossed the snow-capped border and descended through varying degrees of temperature and an ever-changing panorama of scenic beauty to the very western boundaries of the nation. Today you witnessed man's handicraft, the great Navy Yard, the bridges which span the bay, at once the engineer's greatest accomplishment and the builder's greatest achievement. Treasure Island, where you are at this time, rising out of the waters of the bay and facing the skyline of a great city and the Golden Gate, ever extending a welcome to the approaching traveler and bon voyage to the departing guest. On the morrow, Mr. President, you will visit one of nature's contributions to our state, awe-inspiring, a combination of beauty and symmetry, pleasing to the senses, and abounding in that sacred atmosphere which attunes the heart to a harmony with infinite. Here in this place, you are surrounded, as you will be during your visit to our Commonwealth, by a sympathetic and a patriotic people. Their presence here and on the streets and highways along which you have passed extend a welcome and good wishes that must convince you of their appreciation and their happiness that you are again among us. These are California, the people, nature's gorgeous gifts, and man's visions realized in unparalleled construction are California. And they all conspire to welcome the nation's chief citizen and highest official. Go where you will, these will welcome you, wish you health and happiness in all the years to come. In the words of the poet laureate of this state, we may locate California as twixt the seas and the deserts, twixt the waste and the waves, between the sands of buried lands and oceans, coral caves. It lies not east nor west, but like a scroll unfurled, where the hand of God hath hung it, down the middle of the world. And this California, stretching down the middle of the world, bids our great and popular President a hearty and sincere welcome.
Mr. President, after listening to the Governor Marion's speech, you may realize the truth of the fact that California always goes in for understatement. We are now going to have you welcomed by all the people of the Bay Area. Not only that they may say how glad they are to have you here, but in recognition of benefits received. And I may say to you that outside of this meal, everything else on this island is a WPA project. The man I'm about to introduce, we're very lucky to have here because he is still suffering from a very severe attack of their 7-year ickies. Mayor Angelo Rossi, the mayor of San Francisco.
Mr. President and my fellow Americans, I regret that my good friend, Secretary of the Interior, is not here with us today, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, seldom does it come to anyone to receive the ovation you have along the line of march this morning. May I say to you, it is proof of the loyalty of the West to our American form of government and to our President. It is my pleasant duty to welcome you, Mr. President, to this area in the name of the mayors of the cities surrounding our glorious San Francisco Bay. It is indeed a distinct honor to any community to be afforded the privilege of welcoming our chief executive, and no metropolitan area in the land, I'm sure, can better express its appreciation of this distinction than those cities represented here today. We feel that in coming to us, you come to make manifest once again the true spirit of America, of which we are all so proud. We know, therefore, that our greeting to you should be one through which permeates the spirit of the pioneer builders of the West, which, after all, is that spirit of democracy. At this time, Mr. President, in the name of the citizens of the entire Bay Area, I wish to express our sincere appreciation for the wholehearted manner in which you have given heed to the problems of the West. Therefore, in extending our words of greeting, we also include this note of deep and heartfelt appreciation. You are here with us today, visiting this man-made island created on the shoals waters of San Francisco Bay. You have viewed the splendid array of buildings now nearing completion, in which we will play host to the world during our pageant of the Pacific in 1939. The splendor, the beauty, the glamour, and the romance of the Western world will at that time be presented to all the people in a manner truly representative of the spirit of our pioneer forefathers. Mr. President, it is our sincere hope that during our exposition you will find time to be with us again. I most sincerely take this opportunity now to invite you and the distinguished First Lady of the land to be our guest at the Golden Gate International Exposition in 1939. Once again, Mr. President, may I extend in the name of the people of the entire Bay Area, and particularly in the name of those who live in the city, dedicated to the principles of the kindly, lovable, and understanding St. Francis, our sincere greetings and a deep appreciation of your visit here and a welcome that we hope will surpass any you have received in the entire United States.
Mr. President, I don't wish you to have the slightest doubt as to Mayor Ross's gratitude, but I would like to define gratitude to you as a lively expectation of favors to come. Now, Mr. President, as a loyal New Yorker, you may deny it. But if we have no doubt in the world that you are wearied to death with the enthusiasms of the East, with their exuberances, their praise of their climate, and particularly their World's Fair. And so, when we touch upon our exposition, we're going to call upon the one who is an apostle of that icy restraint that characterizes California, Mr. Leland Cutler, the president of the National Exposition. And if he doesn't tell all about it, I'll kill him.
Mr. President, Mr. Creel, I want to say to the millions of people who've evidenced their eagerness for the opening of the Golden Gate International Exposition on this new island in San Francisco Bay on February 18th, 1939, that this is an unparalleled occasion in the history of the world. For this day marks the dedication of new land created for the United States of America in the midst of metropolitan civilization. This treasure island, in sight of the Golden Gate Bridge and the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, was built by the United States Army engineers with funds of the Works Progress Administration, augmented by exposition funds, and the permanent buildings here built by the Public Works Administration, augmented likewise by exposition funds. The federal participation of $1.5 million granted by the Congress of the United States, approved by the President, and is now being administered under the guidingship of the Federal Commissioner, Mr. George Creel. Now, in addition to the creation of this island itself, already here are buildings and towers and gardens to a total of $15 million, roads and reservoirs and underground structures and ferry slips and hangars for planes. The people of this great Bay community have raised $7.5 million. The state of California has appropriated $5 million, and the counties of California have raised more than $1 million. 41 nations of the Occident and the Orient, 3 islands and territories, and 34 states have joined with major exhibitors and concessionaires to an expenditure of $50 million on opening day. This exposition in San Francisco Bay will not be the biggest exposition the world may know, but we promise you that it will be the most beautiful exposition the world has ever seen, a true pageant of the Pacific, with art and life and color, and all nations together in understanding and happiness and fun. Now, expositions at best last for just a little while. Land lasts forever. And the great heritage of our California community is this airport in the middle of San Francisco Bay, which, embellished by the beauty of our exposition, will be with our country until time's end. San Francisco, through the exposition, offers new ground to the country we love. And with this additional acreage added to his responsibilities, and his pride, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Governor Merriam, ladies and gentlemen, rarely, perhaps never in my life, have I been as thrilled as I have been today. Starting with a visit to my old friends of nearly a quarter of a century ago at the Mare Island Navy Yard, and then that trip by motor over wonderful highways to that view of your two new bridges that I'd never seen before. And that wonderful reception all along the line of march. I think that you people out here on the coast, when you start to do something, do it better than anywhere else in the United States. And then, coming down from what I used to call Goat Island in the old days, although I believe it had a more official and more beautiful name, to this man-made island, with these wonderful buildings that already prove what the exposition is going to look like next year. All I can tell you is that I await the passage of months before I come back here to see it all. Confidence that in that year of 1939, the United States and all the Western Hemisphere will be at peace is shown by the fact that in this nation, two great international expositions are about to be held. It is our hope and our expectation that that confidence is well placed, and that the very fact of holding these two expositions means an added impetus to the cause of world peace. Great gatherings of such a nature make for trade, for better understanding, and for renewed goodwill between the nations of the world. It has been suggested, both on the Pacific coast and on the Atlantic coast, that it was a mistake to hold two expositions in 1 year. But I cannot agree with that, because it seems to me that each is a supplement to the other. Thousands of Americans are already planning to visit both of the expositions next year, to see both ends of our wide nation, and perhaps to travel one way by the all-American route via the Panama Canal. Furthermore, those who visit us from other countries will be stimulated to cross our country, the way I try to do every year that passes. Too often we are judged by those from other lands who spend a few hurried weeks or even days on one seaboard and think they know America. At New York the other day, I suggested, furthermore, that we Americans much wish that many more people from other nations would come to visit us. We Americans have the travel habit, and we wish that other people would acquire it. The more of them who visit us next year, the happier we will be. In the construction of the Golden Gate International Exposition, the federal government has been glad and happy to be of material assistance to your plans. In addition to the allotment by the Congress of $1.5 million, I am told that you have received nearly $5 million in the form of useful work paid for by WPA funds, and nearly another $2 million in equally useful work paid for from Public Works funds. In other words, total federal assistance of more than $8.25 million. I am glad that the federal government has been able so greatly to help the fine spirit which throughout the western states has encouraged and is encouraging this undertaking. And I am glad, too, that we have been able to help the state of California and the municipalities around San Francisco Bay in the construction of the two great bridges that I saw today for the first time. Those bridges form a magnificent illustration of the new saying that what nature has put asunder, man can join together. In another 2 hours, I hope to review the United States fleet, now at anchor in this great American harbor. That fleet is not merely a symbol, it is a potent, ever-ready fact in the national defense of the United States. Every right-thinking man and woman in our country wishes that it were safe for the nation to spend less of our national budget on our armed forces. All know that we are faced with a condition and not a theory, and that that condition is not of our own choosing. Money spent on armament does not create permanent income-producing wealth, and about the only satisfaction that we can take out of the present world situation is that the proportion of our national income that we spend on armaments is only a quarter or a third of the proportion that most of the other great nations of the world are spending on theirs at this time. We fervently hope for the day when the other leading nations of the world will realize that their present course must inevitably lead to disaster. We stand ready to meet them, to encourage them in any efforts they may make toward a definite reduction in world armament. The year 1939, next year, would go down in history not only as the year of the two great American World's Fairs, but would be a year of worldwide rejoicing if that year could also mark definite steps toward permanent world peace. That, my friends, is the hope. That is the prayer of the overwhelming number of men and women and children in all the earth today.
And so the President concludes his address from the administration building of the Golden Gate International Exposition, which will soon open on Treasure Island, located in the heart of San Francisco Bay. The President's talk was listened to this afternoon by over 1,000 invited guests who filled this great new building to overflowing. Following his talk, after an exchange of greetings with his friends and admirers, the President will embark by automobile for the cruiser Houston and an anchor review of the United States fleet now lying at anchor in San Francisco Bay. At this time, let me mention that the Fleet Review broadcast originally scheduled for this afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time will be broadcast instead at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time due to a change in plans by the President and his party. Columbia has announcers and engineers stationed at points of vantage on the line of review to bring you at first hand a picture of this day's activities. The review will be covered by CBS from the time the President sets foot on the Houston until he again departs. Announcers aboard the reviewing ship will bring you word pictures of this, the most thrilling naval spectacle of recent times, and announcers on the great San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge will give you a first-hand account of the Houston as she steams into the long line of review. More Columbia representatives from the tallest building in the heart of San Francisco will describe the scene from their vantage point high above this great bay, while another of Columbia's crews stationed 5 miles down the receiving line will come in later for their accounts of this great event. The appearance of the United States Pacific Fleet in San Francisco Bay is a rare treat and is expected to draw 1 million people to its shores and along its famous Embarcadero to watch the review. A great many people in the city, I'm told, were thoroughly amazed when they awoke one morning to find the entire United States fleet, excepting the Asiatic fleet, which is in China waters, riding easily at anchor within the breakwater of the famous Golden Gate. It had come in the previous afternoon under cover of fog. This is an event that San Franciscans undoubtedly will long remember, a visit from their president, the President of the United States, and a review of the Pacific Fleet almost in their very front yards. More than 250,000 people lined the streets along the President's route from Crockett through Marin County, San Rafael and Sausalito, and thence to the Golden Gate Bridge and around the Civic Center across the Bay Bridge to Treasure Island this morning and early afternoon. Again, we remind you to stay tuned to CBS for a full account of the afternoon's proceedings. The time, 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Charles Daly speaking. We return you now to our San Francisco studios.
This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.